Let me tell you about the day I held my boss's future in my hands. My name is Daniel, and this is the story of how a man who spent years trying to destroy me ended up signing his own professional death warrant. Picture this. I'm sitting at my desk when my boss, the same man who'd sabotaged my projects, stolen my ideas, and nearly broken my spirit, walks up and drops a document in front of me. "Type this up for HR," he says with that smug grin I'd come to hate. I look down, and my blood runs cold. It's his resignation letter. Complete. Signed. With today's date. For a moment, I just stared at it, my fingers trembling. Not from nerves, from sheer disbelief. Because what he didn't know? That envelope contained more than just his resignation. It held every ounce of proof I'd carefully collected over 3 long years of his lies, his schemes, his betrayals. And as I walked to HR, that envelope in my hand felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. This wasn't just justice, this was checkmate. But let me back up, because to understand how sweet this moment was, you need to know how it all began. My first day at Vantage Systems started with a fire alarm. Not a real one, just the company's way of saying everything's on fire. The server crashed overnight. Clients couldn't access their data. The IT team had been scrambling for hours. I walked in at 8 a.m. My new boss, Carl, barely looked up. "Daniel, right? Grab coffee. We're in crisis mode." I sat at my desk, logged in, and scanned the error logs. The problem wasn't hardware. It was a corrupted database script. 1 line of bad code. I fixed it in 12 minutes. The office went quiet when the systems came back online. Carl stared at his screen, then at me. "You got lucky," he said. The CEO walked over an hour later. "Who fixed the servers?" Carl stood up. "My team pulled an all-nighter." I didn't say a word, but I knew right then, this job wouldn't be about solving problems. It'd be about surviving him. The Lawson account was bleeding money. Their entire inventory system had gone offline during peak season. The client was threatening to walk. The board wanted answers by noon. I worked through the night tracing the problem. It wasn't the software. Someone had changed the server settings manually. I rebuilt the configuration from scratch. By sunrise, Lawson's systems were running faster than ever. At 9 a.m., Carl called me into his office. "Give me your notes. The board needs a full report." I handed over everything: the diagnostics, the fix, even the recovery timeline. The board meeting started at 11. Through the glass walls, I watched Carl pointing at slides, my slides, while the directors nodded. The CEO clapped him on the back. When they broke for lunch, the CFO stopped me in the hall. "Carl really saved our skin with Lawson, didn't he?" I just nodded. That's when I started keeping 2 sets of notes. One for Carl, and one locked in my desk. Carl dropped the Thompson files on my desk Friday at 4:55 p.m. "Client needs this completely restructured by Monday morning. They're flying to Tokyo Sunday night. Wants to review everything before takeoff." The folder contained 6 months of financial data. Messy, unorganized, with half the records handwritten. The due date on the request form showed Thursday. Carl had held it back a full day. I asked IT for the digital backups. Carl said those are archived, the tech told me. Takes 48 hours to retrieve. The accounting department was gone for the weekend. The building security saw me coming back Sunday at 5 a.m. with 3 coffees. At 7:30, Monday, Carl strolled in holding breakfast. "Where's the Thompson report?" I handed him 78 pages of analysis. He flipped through it once. "This isn't what they wanted. You'll need to redo it." The client email came an hour later. "Excellent work as always," it read. "Exactly what we needed." Carl never mentioned it again, but from then on, every impossible project landed on my desk Thursday afternoon. And every Monday morning, my work was suddenly not quite right. I started documenting the pattern. Dates, times, original requests versus what Carl claimed he'd asked for. The discrepancies filled 3 notebooks before winter. The coffee machine conversation started first. I'd walk into the break room and people would stop talking. Sarah from marketing stopped asking me to check her spreadsheets. Mike in operations stopped inviting me to their Thursday lunches. At first I thought it was just busy season. Then Janet in accounting pulled me aside after a budget meeting. "You might want to watch your tone in presentations," she said. "People are saying you talk down to teams." I checked the last 5 meeting recordings. Not once had I interrupted anyone. Not once had I raised my voice. The next week, Carl took me off the cross-on project. "Client says they want someone more collaborative," he told me. I'd never even met the cross-on team. Performance review season came. My peer feedback forms all said the same thing. Needs to work on teamwork. The comments were vague, but consistent. I asked HR for specifics. They showed me one comment. "Acts like he's the smartest person in the room, no name attached." That's when I noticed Carl having quiet chats in the hallway, leaning close to people at their desks. Always, when I walked by. I started carrying my phone with the voice memo app open in my pocket, just in case. The email came at 10:17 a.m. All staff meeting. Conference room. Immediate. We filed in to find HR standing beside Carl. No introduction. Just straight to it. "Due to restructuring, we're eliminating several positions." They read the names. When they got to Martin Reeves, my pencil snapped. Martin had worked here 19 years. He trained me. Last week, he'd argued with Carl about my performance review. "This evaluation doesn't match his work," Martin had said loud enough for half the office to hear. They gave him 12 minutes to clear his desk. Security watched him pack. At the elevator, Martin shook my hand. "Keep records," he said. "Date everything." Then he was gone. Carl walked past my desk after lunch. "Tough day," he said, "but business is business." That night, I bought a notebook, started writing down every conversation, every assignment, every time Carl changed the rules. The next morning, I arrived early, made copies of all my project files, left one set in my drawer, took the other home. Martin had taught me that. The server upgrade meant old emails got temporarily restored. I was searching for a client contract when the search results showed something unexpected. An email chain between Carl and IT from last November. Subject line, "Daniel's Q4 reports." Carl's message read, "Move these to archive immediately, no backup copies." The IT guy replied, "These are active project files. You sure?" Carl's response, "Do it now. He'll recreate them." I checked the date, the day before our biggest client presentation, the day my files had supposedly corrupted. I saved the emails 3 different ways, printed 2 copies, left one in my desk, gave the other to my lawyer cousin for safekeeping. That afternoon, Carl announced a surprise file audit. "Clean up your drives, people. It's checking everything Monday." I stayed late, watched the security cameras, saw Carl enter my office after hours. He spent 12 minutes at my computer. The next morning, my deleted files folder was empty. Good thing I'd already moved everything to a hidden cloud drive. Carl stopped by my desk. "You ready for the audit?" "Ready as I'll ever be," I said. He smiled. I smiled back. Game on. Lisa from HR caught me in the parking garage after work. She kept glancing at the security cameras. "Check your personal email," she said, walking past me fast. The message arrived at 6:42 p.m. No subject line, just 3 PDF attachments. Carl's performance reviews from the past 5 years. Every single one marked needs improvement. Comments about missed deadlines, angry clients, poor leadership. The most recent one stopped me cold. The CEO had written, "Final warning, next quarter determines your future here." Dated 2 days before Martin got fired. Lisa's note at the bottom said, "He made me edit these before filing. Originals are in the restricted HR drive. Password is his employee ID backwards." I cross-checked dates. Every time Carl had blamed me for a missed deadline, his review showed he'd been warned about the same thing months earlier. The next morning, I accidentally left a printout in the copier. Just the first page. Just enough to make someone curious. By lunchtime, 3 people asked me if it was true Carl had been on probation. I played dumb. Lisa quit that afternoon, cleaned out her desk and left without saying goodbye. Carl looked nervous all day, kept checking his phone, watching who talked to who. I made sure he saw me smiling in the break room. Just a little. Just enough. The elevator doors were closing when the CEO stepped in, just the 2 of us going up to 22. He nodded. I nodded back. My phone buzzed. The Thompson file, the one Carl had called "not what they wanted," popped up on screen. The CEO glanced over. "You're working on Thompson?" he asked. "Just cleaning up some details," I said. He leaned closer. "Is that the new forecasting model?" I let him scroll through, watched his eyebrows go up. "Carl presented this last week," he said. "Called it his own work." The elevator stopped at 15. Someone got on. We stayed quiet until 22. As the doors opened, the CEO handed back my phone. "Come by my office tomorrow, 8 a.m. Bring everything you've got on the Lawson account, too." Carl was waiting when I got back to my desk. "Where were you?" "Getting coffee," I said. He eyed me for a long moment, then walked away. I spent that night organizing every file, every email, every timestamp. At 7:55 the next morning, I was outside the CEO's office, right on time. Carl showed up at 8:07, out of breath. "Sorry I'm late," he said to the closed door. The CEO's assistant looked up. "He's in a meeting." Carl turned, saw me sitting there with my files. His face changed. The office door opened. "Daniel?" the CEO called. "You ready?" I stood up, walked past Carl without a word. The door shut behind us. Carl rushed into my office, waving a folder. "The Henderson account just came through. They need market analysis by Friday." I pretended to study the requirements. "This is huge. Their biggest deal all year." "I'm putting you in charge," Carl said. "Don't let me down." I waited until he left, then opened the fake spreadsheet I'd prepared weeks ago. Subtle errors buried in the formulas, numbers that didn't quite add up. Enough to pass a quick glance, but not a real review. I worked late that night, made sure the cleaning staff saw me, left the file open on my screen. The next morning, my computer had been used. The mouse was on the wrong side, the chair adjusted higher. Carl presented my research to the board that afternoon. I sat in the back, watching him point at charts with confidence. Halfway through, the CFO interrupted. "These figures can't be right." Carl kept talking. The CEO stopped him. "Run those numbers again." The room got quiet as Carl recalculated. His face changed when he saw the mistake. "I'll fix this," he said. The CEO stood up. "You should have checked before presenting." Carl looked at me. I gave him the same shrug he'd given me so many times. The meeting ended early. Carl stayed behind, frantically reworking the data. I walked past his office later. He was still there, sweating over his keyboard. The Henderson deal fell through the next day. The client went with our competitor. Carl got called into HR at 3 p.m. I made sure to be at the water cooler when he came out. He didn't look at me, just walked straight to his office and closed the door. I went back to my desk, opened a new file, started preparing my next move. The email from HR arrived at 9:17 a.m. "Bring all documentation regarding recent projects to conference room B immediately." I grabbed the black binder from my bottom drawer, the one I'd been filling for months, dated entries, printed emails, time-stamped files. Carl was already in the room when I arrived. He looked at the binder, then at the HR director. "What is this?" The HR director ignored him. "We're reviewing all team communications after the Henderson incident." I placed the binder on the table. "Everything's in order, by project date." Carl reached for it. The HR director pulled it away. "We'll start with Daniel's materials first." They made me wait outside. Through the glass, I watched Carl's face as they flipped pages. His hands clenched, his jaw tightened. At noon, they called me back in. The binder was open to a printed email chain. Carl's messages to IT about losing my files. The HR director pointed. "Can you confirm these are authentic?" "Yes," I said. "Server logs will verify." Carl stood up. "This is ridiculous. Those could be fake." The HR director didn't look up. "Carl, sit down. We're not done." They dismissed me at 12:45, told me not to discuss the meeting. I walked past Carl's office on my way back. The door was closed. The blinds were drawn. At 2 p.m., security escorted him from the building. He carried a single box, didn't look at anyone. The CEO called me in at 3. "We'll need your help restructuring the team," he said. I nodded, asked what happened to Carl. The CEO slid a folder across the desk. Inside was Carl's resignation letter, already signed, dated today. "I believe you know what to do with this," he said. I took the letter back to my desk, made 2 copies, filed one with HR, kept the other in my black binder, right behind the section labeled Evidence. The boardroom was full when I arrived. Every director sat around the long table. Carl stood at the front, shuffling papers. The CEO motioned me to a seat in the corner. "We're just getting started," he said. Carl began his presentation, explained the Henderson deal failure, blamed outdated market data, said the team had let him down. Halfway through, the CEO interrupted. "Let's hear from someone else." He turned to me. "Daniel?" I stood up, placed my phone on the table, hit play. Carl's voice filled the room. "I'll destroy his career if it's the last thing I do." The recording continued. Carl telling IT to delete files. Carl admitting he changed project deadlines. Carl laughing about setting me up to fail. The room went still. Carl lunged for my phone. The CFO blocked him. The CEO played another clip. Carl's voice again. "The board will never believe him over me." Carl's face turned red. "That's edited, taken out of context." The security footage played next. Carl at my computer after hours. Carl planting wrong numbers in my reports. The CEO stood up. "We've seen enough." Carl looked around the table. No one met his eyes. The head of security opened the door. 2 guards waited outside. Carl straightened his tie, walked out without another word. The CEO turned to me. "Your office will be ready Monday. Top floor, right next to mine." I nodded. Looked at the empty chair where Carl had been sitting. The meeting adjourned. I went back to my desk, packed up my things, left the black binder in the center drawer. Someone else might need it someday. The company-wide email went out at 9:01 a.m. Effective immediately, Carl Mercer will report to Daniel Carter for all project assignments. Carl showed up at my new office at 9:30, his old office. He stood in the doorway holding a notepad. "You wanted to see me?" I pointed to the chair across from my desk, the same one I'd sat in dozens of times before. "First thing," I said, "the Henderson files need reorganizing. The client wants everything by end of day." Carl opened his mouth, closed it, wrote something down. "And coffee," I added. "Black, 2 sugars." He hesitated, then nodded. At 10:15, he returned with the coffee, spilled some on the saucer. I took a sip. "Too weak, get another." The second cup was better. By lunch, the whole floor had seen Carl fetching files, answering my phone, taking notes at meetings. The CFO stopped by in the afternoon. "Need anything?" he asked me. I handed him the Henderson folder. "Carl's working on this. Should be done soon." Carl stayed late that night. I saw him through his office window, the small one by the copy machine. At 7 p.m., I dropped a stack of files on his desk. "First thing tomorrow," I said. He didn't look up, just kept typing. I turned at the door. "Oh, and Carl." He finally raised his head. "Don't be late." The elevator doors closed on his tired face. I pressed the button for the top floor. The CEO wanted to discuss next quarter's strategy. My first official day running the department was tomorrow. I needed to be ready. The CEO slid the offer letter across his desk. "Director of Operations, starting Monday. It's yours if you want it." I pushed the paper back. "Actually, I had something else in mind." He leaned forward. "What's that?" "Regional VP, the position above Carl's old job." The CEO laughed, then stopped when he saw my face. "You're serious?" I opened my folder, laid out 3 years of numbers, projects I'd completed, clients I'd brought in, revenue I'd generated. "The board already approved it," the CEO said after a long silence. "They assumed you'd take Carl's spot." "I know," I said, "but I don't want his job. I want the one he was gunning for next." The CEO studied me, nodded slowly. "Effective when?" "Tomorrow." He picked up the phone. "HR needs to draft new paperwork." I stood to leave. "One more thing," the CEO said. "Who takes Carl's old position?" I smiled. "Let's promote Janet from accounting. She's been doing the real work there for years." The elevator ride down felt different this time. I pressed the button for the operations floor instead of mine. Carl was waiting outside my office with coffee. "Not there anymore," I said, walking past. He followed me to the VP suite, stopped at the door. I took the coffee from his hands. "You'll report to Janet now. She starts Monday." His mouth opened, closed. I stepped into my new office, closed the door. Through the glass, I watched him walk away. The phone rang. First call in my new role. I picked it up. Daniel Carter speaking. The view from this side looked even better than I'd imagined. 6 months later, I was working late when the front desk called. "Your dinner's here." The elevator doors opened to reveal Carl in a blue delivery jacket, holding a paper bag. His hair was longer. His suit was gone. We stood there in silence. He finally extended the bag. "Chicken tikka masala, extra naan." I took it, checked the receipt. "You forgot the mint chutney." His jaw tightened. "I'll tell the restaurant." As he turned to leave, I reached into my wallet, pulled out a 50. "Keep the change." He stared at the bill, took it slowly. The elevator arrived. He stepped in without looking back. I returned to my office, ate the meal at my desk. The curry was good, but needed more spice. The next morning, Janet stopped by. "You ordered from that new Indian place last night?" "Yeah," I said. "Decent food, terrible service." She laughed. "Didn't notice the delivery receipt on my desk, the one with Carl's full name and driver ID number. I filed it away with the others, just in case." The phone rang. Another big deal closing. Another day running the show. I glanced out the window, saw a blue delivery car pulling out of the parking lot. Right on schedule. Conclusion. The company holiday party was in full swing when I spotted Carl across the room. He wasn't a guest, just delivering appetizers in his blue uniform. I watched him set down a tray of shrimp cocktail, watched him glance at the plaque on the wall. Regional VP of the Year, Daniel Carter. Our eyes met for half a second before he looked away. Janet handed me a drink. "To another record year," she said. I clinked her glass. Took a sip. The CEO tapped his fork against his champagne flute. "Before the awards," he said, "some exciting news." He nodded to me. "Daniel's been promoted again. Starting next month, he'll be running our West Coast division." The applause was loud. The handshakes lasted minutes. When the crowd parted, Carl was gone. Just an empty tray on the table, a half-eaten canapé left behind. I checked my watch. My car would be here soon to take me to the airport. New city, new office, bigger salary. The elevator doors closed on the party noise. I pressed the button for the lobby. The ride down was quiet, just how I liked it. Daniel's story proves one thing. No betrayal goes unanswered. Have you ever been underestimated or sabotaged? Drop A in the comments if you'd have done the same, or tell us how you turned the tables. Smash that subscribe button. Your toxic boss deserves to see you win.